The final technique that we need a general schema for is joint repositioning. So let's discuss that a little bit further. Well, first off, I want to let you know that joint repositioning is going to look a lot like stretching, only with a band added. Okay? The reason for that is when we have malaligned joints, where the dysfunction is going to show up mostly is at the end range of that joint. When we're kind of in the middle neutral ranges of motion for a joint that's malaligned, we probably won't get as much pain. But once we start to push the edge of that joint, that's where we're going to start to see some discomfort and problems with that segment. So first off, joint repositioning is going to resemble a lot of stretching. The only difference is adding the external force that is the band to help position that joint. Number two, before we even talk about the 4 rules and how they apply to joint repositioning, let's talk about something a little bit more straightforward, and that is simply anchoring your band to a secure site. So we will soon be providing these wall-mounted stud anchors through Ulti-Roll on our website. You can use one of those. If you don't have one and you're in the gym, you can use a squat rack or anything heavy that's weighted down. If you're in your house, my best advice is the leg to a couch or some heavier piece of furniture. But the point is, please, please, please make sure that it's secured, because we don't want anything breaking and for you to get slapped by a monster band. Okay, well, I have my monster band secured to this wall anchor. Okay, it's not going anywhere. So let's start talking about how the rules apply to joint repositioning. Well, first off, let's be in the correct area. This is pretty simple. In joint repositioning, the correct area is going to be the joint that has pain, or simply a joint that we're going to use during a performance. Okay, so as an example, say that when I'm going to do a front squat, I start to get pain in my hip at the bottom of that squat. Well, that might point to the fact that that hip socket is a little bit malaligned. So that's going to be the right area for me to go. Right hip hurts, I'm going to mobilize my right hip. So once we have that area, now let's get into the specific position, okay? I don't want to give too much general information on how the external force of the band is going to be applied, because it gets a little bit dicey, it gets a little too complicated, so please just follow what we have in the mobility sequences below. I promise it is the correct direction and the correct force to apply to the joint. In this case, for the bottom of my squat, and then getting that hip to not hurt in that squat, where we're going to go is with a posterior, a backwards distraction of the joint, and then we're going to go into a split stance stretch. Okay? So just like a stretch, we're going to get into our end range here. Okay? Right here is about as far down into my hip as I can go. Okay? And then we get to apply rule number 2. As always, we might be a little uncomfortable in this position. So from here, we're just going to start breathing and relaxing into this stretch a little bit. Get my diaphragmatic breaths in, make sure that this hip is nice and loose, okay? And then we can go into step number 3, which is applying the same contract-relax cycles that we learned previously with our stretching. Same idea, we want to contract for about 5 seconds statically, okay? So our hip's not going to move, our leg's not going to move. We're just getting a little bit of activation in the muscles that we're stretching. And then just like in our stretching, on the 30-second relax piece, we're going to try to get a little bit more range of motion. So in this case, I have my joint distraction band that's helping put my hip socket back into place, right? And then to apply this contract relax, I'm simply going to push through my heel, once again statically. So I'm pushing, nothing moves, but I have good activation of the back of my hip. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now that I'm done with that, I can relax and see if I have further range of motion, if I can drive that hip down more. Okay? Once again, I know this resembles much of a stretch, but please do not underestimate how much having this band distract that joint backwards helps and realigns that joint. So that's the idea behind joint distraction. Let's be in the correct place. Let's make sure that our distraction force, i.e. the direction of the band pull, is the correct way. Then we'll get into our end range on the stretch that we're in, utilize the same 3 or more contract-relax cycles, and that is how we will reposition our joints. Please take this technique, apply it to the specific videos below, and let us know how it helps your body.